The battle had been over for hours, but the smoke still hung heavy in the air. The ground of Vorn Prime was a graveyard. Broken metal, scorched trees, and bodies of 2 species strewn across the red soil. Corporal Daniel Harkins moved cautiously through the ruins, rifle slung over one shoulder, scanning for survivors. His squad had been separated during the retreat, and now the only sound was the distant hiss of cooling plasma burns. Daniel was human. He was also painfully aware that he was deep in enemy territory. The apex, towering predatory bipeds bred for war, were humanity's most feared opponents in the Orion conflict. Each stood nearly 3 meters tall, with sinewy muscle, razor-edged talons, and faces like a nightmare from Earth's ancient past. They were fast, strong, and utterly relentless. And yet, as Daniel picked his way past a collapsed ridge of rock, he heard something he never expected. A low, wet rasp of breath. He froze, rifle ready, eyes scanning. Then he saw it. Half buried under debris, an apex warrior lay sprawled on its side. Its dark, scale-armored skin was torn and burnt in several places. A massive gash ran across its chest, leaking thick violet blood into the dirt. Its breathing was shallow, and its normally piercing yellow eyes were glazed over with pain. It wasn't moving to attack. It was dying. Daniel knew the smart move was to leave it. Apex soldiers didn't surrender. If the creature lived long enough, it would try to kill him. Every training manual, every war story screamed the same thing. Put it down, keep walking. But Daniel just stood there. The apex's breaths were ragged, labored. The cold night wind cut across the battlefield, and the big alien shivered almost imperceptibly. Its clawed hand twitched in the dirt, as if it were holding onto the world by a thread. For reasons he couldn't quite explain, Daniel stepped forward. Middle choice that shouldn't be made. He crouched beside the alien, keeping his rifle angled just in case. Up close, the apex didn't look like the unstoppable monster from recruitment videos. It looked tired. Scars crossed its arms and neck, not from this battle but from others, years of fighting. Its gaze flickered toward him, just barely focusing. It didn't snarl, didn't bare its teeth. Instead, it made a faint clicking noise deep in its throat, a sound Daniel didn't recognize but instinctively understood. It was too weak to fight. Daniel slung his rifle behind him and knelt in the dust. Without really thinking, he unzipped his field jacket, the one piece of warmth he had for the freezing desert night, and draped it over the alien's massive torso. The apex blinked slowly, its breathing faltering, then settling slightly as the wind stopped cutting across its wounds. "This is stupid," Daniel muttered under his breath. "You'd gut me if you could." But he didn't take the jacket back. He dug into his med pack, pulling out a field stim. The medics would call him insane for using human medicine on an apex. No one knew if it would help or make things worse, but Daniel injected it near the wound anyway. The alien made a low, surprised grunt, its chest rising a little more steadily now. Daniel stayed there for minutes, maybe longer, checking for incoming patrols, scanning the sky. The whole time, he kept glancing back at the alien, as if expecting it to suddenly lunge. Instead, it just stared at him. Not with hate, not with fear, just curiosity. Finally, he heard the faint hum of approaching human dropships. He stood, glancing down at the alien one last time. "I can't carry you," he said quietly. "But maybe someone will find you." Then he left, boots crunching on the red soil, leaving his jacket draped across the enemy's chest. Middle, the return. 3 months later, Daniel was back on Vorn Prime. This time, humanity was winning. The apex front had collapsed after their supply chains were cut, and human ground forces were pushing them back sector by sector. Daniel's squad was assigned to sweep abandoned Apex fortifications, looking for intel. They breached an old Apex bunker at dawn. Inside, the air was stale and heavy, the walls lined with alien glyphs. As they cleared each room, Daniel hung near the back, scanning shadows out of habit. Then he froze. In the far corner of the command chamber, standing still as a statue, was an Apex warrior. No weapon, no armor, just standing there in silence, staring straight at him. The others shouted for it to surrender, rifles aimed, safeties off. But Daniel noticed something. The alien's gaze wasn't hostile. It was fixed entirely on him. Slowly it stepped forward. The squad leader barked at Daniel to fall back, but the Apex raised its hands, empty, and pulled something from around its shoulders. A worn, dirt-stained human field jacket. Daniel's field jacket. The Apex walked right up to him, ignoring every other gun in the room, and held the jacket out. Its talons were careful, almost delicate, as it placed the fabric in his hands. Daniel's squad stood frozen, unsure what to make of it. The Apex made that same faint clicking sound from months ago, tilting its head toward him, and then, it simply turned and walked away. No one fired. No one moved. It disappeared into the dawn mist outside. Middle the det. Word of the encounter spread fast among the unit. Some thought the Apex had been trying to trick them. Others said it was some weird cultural ritual. But Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that it had been something else entirely. Over the next few weeks, strange things began to happen during patrols. Whenever Daniel's squad clashed with Apex forces, there were moments, fleeting but unmistakable, when Apex fighters seemed to deliberately avoid shooting at him. Twice he found Apex scouts lying dead with human bullets in them. And nearby, evidence that those scouts had just ambushed someone else before dying. It was as if an invisible hand was watching over him. The strangest moment came during a night mission deep in Apex territory. His squad walked straight into a minefield. The lead soldier tripped a hidden pressure sensor, except it didn't go off. A few steps later, they found the mine casing dismantled and left open. No one on the squad had done it. Daniel had a feeling he knew who had. Climax, the final battle. The last stand of the Apex on Vorn Prime happened at the city of Grether, a massive alien fortress built into a cliffside. Human high command expected heavy casualties. Daniel's squad was part of the assault wave. The battle was chaos, explosions tearing through alien architecture, plasma bolts carving the air, human mechs pounding the gates. Midway through the fighting, Daniel was separated again. He found himself in a narrow canyon outside the fortress, cut off from his squad, Apex soldiers closing in. He ducked behind a shattered wall, low on ammo, heart pounding. 3 Apex emerged from the smoke, weapons ready. But before they could fire, a 4th figure dropped from the cliff above. Massive, fast, and familiar. The Apex warrior from before. It hit the ground in a blur, talons flashing, tearing into the enemy squad. The fight was brutal and fast. When it was over, the 3 Apex soldiers lay still, and Daniel's unlikely protector stood between him and the rest of the battlefield. The alien turned to him, breathing hard, one arm bleeding heavily. Daniel didn't think. He ran forward, tearing a strip from his undershirt to bind the wound. "You're insane," he muttered half to himself.